Hi, this is Doug Huggins, and welcome back to part 2 of Best Business Radio's interview with Mr. Chuck Norris.
But the thing is, since this deals with entrepreneurship, I sold my schools to a large company, expecting, because they said, Chuck, if you'll sell your 3 schools to us, we will open up 1,000 Chuck Norris schools all over the United States. I thought, oh, man, 1,000 Chuck Norris schools? That sounds incredible. So I sold my schools to them, and in 2 years, we're broke.
Oh, goodness.
They closed the schools down. And so now I have no schools, and now I'm teaching, at this time I have a family, and so I'm out giving private lessons and giving seminars, to support my family. And Steve McQueen was one of my students. And Bob Barker, by the way, was one of my students, too.
I remember reading that, yes.
Yeah, and anyway, Steve was the one that encouraged me, to pursue an acting career. And by that time I developed a philosophy that anything I start, I will finish. By hook or crook, I will finish. And so I had to really make up my mind if it's something I wanted to pursue, because at this time I'm 34 years old. And I never had an acting class in my life. I never even did a high school play. So, and through my research, I found out there were 16 unemployed actors in Hollywood, and the average income is $4,000 a year. And I'm thinking, holy mackerel! But finally, I decided to do it, and I had no money to take acting classes, so I finally found a school to take acting classes on my GI Bill.
Oh, goodness, that's great.
But anyway, through that, and then through all the ups and downs I had to face, I was finally able to succeed in that arena as well.
Well, of course, you can't get a much better recommendation than Steve McQueen, so that's incredible.
Well, yeah, but he didn't help me. I mean, he just recommended it, but I still had to go through the wall of fire there to achieve it. It sounds easy, but it took me 5 years to finally break into the film industry, and it was a lot of rocky roads, and a lot of rejection along the way.
Certainly.
To finally succeed, but again, when I talk to young people, I tell them, it's important that you stay the course, stay determined and persistent in what it is you want to achieve, and you've got to firmly believe that you can achieve it. That's what's important. Because when I became a fighter, I didn't say, Chuck, you're going to be the world champion. I mean, that was so far beyond my comprehension that, I didn't even think of that. My focus was winning a local tournament in Los Angeles. I said, if I can do that, that will be my goal. And then, of course, when I won it, then my goal increased. I thought, well, if I can win the city championship, why not the state championship? So then my goal increased to the state, and after I won that, I thought, well, if I can win the state, why not the national? So then I fought and won the national, and I said, how about the international? And I won the international. Then I said, how about the world? And then I wound up winning the world. But that's what you have to do. You have to take it step by step to achieve those goals.
Well, talking about your film career particularly, I did a little research last evening, and what I found amazing is with the exception of Way of the Dragon you did with Bruce Lee, you've always played a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously someone with a very patriotic mindset, and that can't, of course, be by accident.
No.
What I really want to get to is you've recently written a book called Black Belt Patriotism, and I'm really curious what inspired you, but what you saw in our society or going on right now that caused you to feel the need to write that book.
Well, I'm 68 years old. Over the last 50 years, I've just seen our country drift further and further away from what our founding fathers had envisioned for our country. And, we have completely forgotten our roots and have drifted from the principles and beliefs that our country was founded upon. After I finished 8.5 years on Walker, Texas Ranger, where I didn't have to read scripts every day, I started reading a lot about history and about our founding fathers. And then just watching our country slowly drift away from what they had in mind for us, and just seeing, seeing that our founding fathers, what the vision America had for us was not corrupted by greed and power. And I've just started slowly seeing our politicians get more greedy and more power hungry over the years, and and how the politicians have become completely disconnected from the will of the people, and how so many of them have fallen into that trap of greed and power, and I thought, well, we've got to get we the people have got to get them back on course, on the right direction of what our country is all about. And I thought, well, and then I started researching the fair tax concept. And, Mike Huckabee, who I campaigned for, was a strong advocate of the fair tax. And so I picked his brain, and then I talked to several economists at universities, and they all agreed that the fair tax concept is by far the best way to get our country back on track again.
Well, I'm from Atlanta, and of course, I'm a big Neil Bortz fan, so of course, I'm in favor of the fair tax as well.
Oh, yeah, I talked to Neil. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's a co-author of it. Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand, Doug, about the tax code, that there's 66,498 pages in the IRS tax code. Now, who in the world knows what's in all those pages? I mean, Charlie Rangel doesn't even know, and he writes the tax code, and he's in trouble with the IRS. and then through my research, I found out that there's that in 2005 there was over 6,000 taxpayers making over $250,000 a year that paid absolutely no taxes. So our whole tax system is broken in our country, and so we need to find a better way for our people, because we're being taxed to death in our country, Doug. You know that. I mean, between the income taxes, the employment taxes, the capital gains, the state, corporate, property, Social Security, we're being taxed to death, and that's why there's $13 trillion in offshore accounts. That's the super rich are hiding their money, and there's 3 million manufacturing jobs being outsourced to other countries because of the huge taxation system in our country. Now, if we had a fair tax, what I call a consumption tax, then the super rich would bring all those trillions of dollars back into our country, give our economy a huge boost, and then all the manufacturing jobs could come back into our country, and we could start having things made in the USA instead of China and Philippines and all this stuff here. And then really we need to get back to that. I was thinking back, 40, 50 years ago, and everything was made in the USA. Now you can't find a thing made in USA, and that's because of the tax system. And we do, so we, the people, have got to put the pressure on our politicians to start emphasizing going toward a fair tax concept, because they won't do it, Doug, and I'll tell you why they won't do it. Because the lobbyists and the special interest groups have got many of our politicians in their pocket. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, if we eliminated the taxation system, then we would have no reason for lobbyists and special interest groups, and of course the politicians, the congressmen, wouldn't have any way of filling their pockets up with money. A good example is Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae and AIG. Look how many of our politicians were taking kickbacks from Fannie Mae.
Oh, yes.
Chris Dodd was the largest recipient of that, and then our president-elect was the second largest. So, and the thing is, so they've got to start thinking of our country first, and not their pocketbook.
Thank you for watching, and be sure to join us again for part 3 of Best Business Radio's interview with Mr. Chuck Norris.